Hello and welcome to another edition of the Skycast from Fantasy Football Scout, a sort of Sky Sports fantasy football version of the FPL Focus Scoutcast. We all overhauled last week. Our plans were in place, then the storms came and decisions need to be made. My name is Joe and joining me is Luke. Luke, how are you?
Thoroughly bored, Joe. I don't know about you.
A little. Moving on, playing the guitar a bit, doing other stuff. I was, as we both play FPL as well, and I had mentioned on social media, I think that FPL should have done what Sky did and divide it up into a couple of game weeks. Because I found Sky much more interesting at the moment during this winter break because lots and lots of decisions
to be made.
Lots and lots of decisions to be made. And then the storm came. So this is the situation. So the situation is that last week we all overhauled. So I'm going to put up the game week 28 schedule up because it's a little different now. So we all overhauled. Many of us got Man City players in ahead of their, great game against West Ham. And then we plan to hop on to Liverpool, Leicester, Wolves assets, others as well. But the Man City game was postponed and it's now after those teams played. So we're not getting that wonderful kind of 2 for 1, 3 for 1, whatever. So plus many of us, there's other things happened as well. So many of us got Richarlison in, absolutely hauled. Some are considering keeping him because of that, even though the fixtures are tough. We've got lots of questions on that. Liverpool more. Grealish as well crops up. So we'll do our best to answer those. We'll also reveal what our revisited plans are and dip into what people are saying in the live chat as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up your live team in a sec. This is your main team rather, and we'll find out what your plan was. But I just want to go through those fixtures. So what's coming up? Friday we got Wolves Leicester, so we hopefully try and find a captain for that. Then Saturday you've got a choice out of Southampton, Burnley, Norwich, Liverpool. Well, I think Liverpool are going to get a lot of people's captaincy there. Sunday Villa, Spurs, Arsenal, Newcastle. People are starting to think about what they're going to do that day. And then Monday, Chelsea, Manchester United, always a tricky captaincy day pre-overhaul, especially now. And then Wednesday, this is the clincher. Wednesday, you suddenly got Man City against West Ham. So we've got those to come with. So what I'm going to do is going to get you a picture of your main team up. For those listening onto the podcast version, I'll just go through that and you can just tell me a bit about them, any moves you've made, what your plans were, what your new plans are, that kind of thing. So you got Alisson and you got Van Dijk, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold and Aurier. And so you've got a 4-4-2 and so you've got Alisson in at the goal and those four defenders. And then you've got Mahrez, Deulofeu, Traore and Grealish in very good value midfield. And then up top you've got Hings and Jimenez. So some notable absentees there and some interesting players. So how did you come in out of the overhaul? What were your plans and what are your new plans?
Yeah, so this being my main team, which is about 900th at the time, I think I talked about it on the last pod. I thought I'd try and do something a little bit different here. If I'm going to get into the top 100, I think I have to be slightly different because having seen everyone's overhaul teams, they're all very, very much the same. So my plan with this team is essentially to run without Salah and use Van Dijk as captain, and then obviously have the four Liverpool defenders. So every time they get a clean sheet, hopefully I'm sort of 1 or 2 up on people who have only got 1 or 2 players there.
Yeah.
And then use my sort of the powerhouse captains because Mahrez was going to change to Vardy. So I'm going to have Vardy, Ings and Jimenez, who I think we discussed again last time that Wolves and Leicester are pretty key for captains. Yeah. So I'll hopefully have, on paper, the 2 best captains for those games as well. So just trying to be a little bit different. So as we've only had a couple of games so far with this one, obviously the noticeable absentee is Richarlison. I went for Deulofeu instead, which obviously didn't work in that individual game. Changed that pretty much last minute as well. So that was pretty gutting. But ultimately, it feels like if you didn't have Richarlison, it feels like a massive hit. It was 30-something points. But, with me with 4 Liverpool, and then maybe a lot of teams with Richarlison have got 2. All I need is that clean sheet from Liverpool, and suddenly I've gained like 20 points back on that pretty much straight away. So I don't think it's all a complete loss. And like you've already discussed, the fixtures are pretty bad. I did obviously cover him in my more safer team, which is my team that's doing worse as well. So they're now pretty much level on points, which is interesting.
Okay, well, let's bring that team in as well, because I've got a second team as well. I'll bring my team picks in shortly, but I quite like having a second team at the moment. It's quite nice. You can do something a bit different. Or in your case, you can do something a bit more sort of mainstream. So we're going to put your second team up on the screen. And just for those listening and don't have the benefit of the visuals, we have Alisson, Gomez, Van Dijk and Alexander-Arnold there. And so you've got 4-3-3 at the moment. And Sionju joins that defensive quintet. Richarlison, Traore, Grealish. So he benefited from Richarlison there, 34 points. Wow. And Grealish there for captaincy. And then up front, really, you've got Abraham in. So you've got that captaincy covered on the Monday. You've got Aguero and you've got Vardy. All good captains. Well, all lined up to be captains as well. So I can see what you mean about, even though this is your second team, it's a safer team, isn't it? Because you've got captains every day. These are, quite good captains each day, and it's still got that slight differential, that quartet of Liverpool defence as well, which bring in the points.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that was the aim with this one. Is basically in this team, I wanted to play fairly safe, so I wanted to cover all captain days because you've got to be in it to win it for a lot of the captains, to be honest. So the team that's there, the only plan change, like many, was Aguero to Salah, which we'll talk about in a bit. But apart from that, I've got most of the main captains covered. I had to sacrifice Jimenez and just go with Traore, captain for the Wolves game, which I think a lot of people will be doing. And then I've still managed to fit in 4 Liverpool defenders. So hopefully, like I've said already, if they get clean sheets, I can hopefully go up on people. So I really like that team. I think it really does a lot of things pretty well. And, it may overtake my differential team. I was prepared to accept that may be the case because obviously you got to take risks if you're going to try and go up any places really with my other team. So this is like my backup.
So it's good. It's good that you got Aguero in there because we'll come to more community questions a bit later. But already we've had some in. So Mad World was going. He said he was going to go Aguero to Salah, and he still wants Salah against Norwich, which is coming up this weekend. But he gets 2 for 1 and a West Ham game as well as one of those by sticking with Aguero because of course City play in the Wednesday, and they also play before Liverpool in game week 29.
They do.
Phil Appleby on the same lines, holding on to Aguero now. He questions rather. He brought him in for Richarlison, but the plan is to play versus West Ham and Leicester and sell Monday for Mane or Firmino. So clearly he's already got Salah there. Once again, mentions 2 for 1. Same thing, Benny Blanco. I went for Aguero and De Bruyne on the overhaul with a plan to move to Salah and Jimenez. That was his plan. But is it worth holding Man City assets now? This team having an Aguero in it as well. What do you think in general about Man City assets? I presume, obviously, just keep if you've got them because that West Ham game looks good. But
yeah, I think Sky players have been quite unfortunate, really. With a lot of what we do is planning, and first of all, having the overhaul dates shifted, obviously affected planning, and then having a match moved, is largely a non-event in FPL, really, because it's still within the same game week. You can't actually do anything to alter it. Whereas in Sky, it's obviously throwing our plans out somewhat. So it's a tricky one, but I don't think it's ideal. Not having Salah for this game. Obviously, I would like to have Salah, but I can't bring myself to transfer out Aguero ahead of a home game against West Ham. I know there's always that slight lingering doubt that he may not play, but we got him in, for this game. And I think it would hurt more if you took him out and then he went mad later on. You would really beat yourself up for it, I think. And when you've got someone like Van Dijk who, I'd imagine nearly everyone will have, or at least have another viable Liverpool player. I feel like you can get away with it. I think we might be able to get away with it. I mean, Van Dijk, as we know, pretty much gets 10 points every single week. Like it's there or thereabouts. I think you pretty much got to back Liverpool for a clean sheet in this game. I think most people would back them for that. And then when you throw in the fact that Salah, he's been playing fantastically well of late, like really good, probably above what his sort of standard has been. He's peaked a little bit more recently. And then when you look at his scores, he's still only getting sort of 13, 14 points on his really good days, which is only 3 or 4 more points than Van Dijk. So if we assume Salah goes mad, as he has with these last few days, you're looking still around 14, 15 points, which is it that much of a loss when you got Van Dijk to captain? Maybe not. And then I think also you then factor in the fact Mane's back, potentially might play that game, and seemingly Salah's, a lot of Salah's best performances have come when Mane's not been there, I think. And also, I believe Milner's back now. I don't think Milner will start, but for example, he could come on for the last 10, 20 minutes and then therefore take penalties away from Salah.
We've seen that. That's actually happened a couple of times, hasn't it? Where Milner's come on and got
penalties. And if you want to build his fitness ahead of these games, then I think that's a possibility that Milner could come on for the last 10 or 20 minutes. So, I think we can get away with it. I hope we can. If Salah does go mad, as long as Van Dijk keeps that clean sheet, it's not the end of the world, because then we've still got Aguero in the back pocket and we just have to hope he does well. My only real concern is, does Aguero play that game against Leicester away a few days later? I would have thought not. I don't know about you, Joe. I think
he's going to get minutes and I think he's capable of scoring in that. But we'll come to my team in shortly, but I would be looking to keep Aguero for that, but possibly not captain him. For the West Ham game, it's great because we get to know whether he's starting or not. There are. I mean, I'm not sure about this. So in the live chat, Manchester Reds was saying Aguero has Leicester and then obviously Real Madrid after West Ham in a matter of days. It's true. They've got 3 games. One only is an easy one in 3 games. In 3 games in a matter of a week. It's really 50-50 if he plays versus West Ham. So he's hypothesising that Aguero may actually only get minutes against West Ham. Then he perhaps starts against Leicester, plays 60 minutes, gets his fitness up, all ready for the Real Madrid game. Surely the biggie, but
yeah. I mean, I can't argue with that because I don't know, and Pep could do a Pep.
Yeah.
But given how the season's gone, given that I still feel Aguero basically plays the majority of the games that he's fit in, and especially when home, it seems to be that case, I would back Aguero for a start in the West Ham game because he's talked about rhythm and stuff. And I feel like, there's rhythm and then there's tiredness. So playing the West Ham game, only getting minutes in the Leicester game, and then playing Real Madrid, to me, feels like it would be better in terms of rhythm. But I'm not Pep Guardiola. Anything can happen. There is a very real possibility here, which everyone is scared of, that Salah goes mad. Van Dijk doesn't keep a clean sheet, and then Aguero doesn't start versus West Ham. That is nightmare. We hit the button. It's nightmare, but I don't think we can feel like that. We just have to trust.
I'll put my main team up because this will because I'm facing a sort of decision. I'm not facing a decision about Aguero or Salah, so I'll put my team up. And we'll see, because Kieran O'Keefe in the live chat as our Salah has basically pointed out that Salah is owned by 65% of the top 1,000, and that's a very real fear at the moment. And I think here's my team. So for the benefit,
Aguero is quite similar though as well.
Yeah, I mean, what I did, I remember we talked last week when I was compiling the overall team, and I thought, I'm just going to get Salah in from the off, just because I know I want him, and then luckily I did that. So I was one of those. So I've got Henderson at the back, Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold, Sionju, Bulldog. I had to captain Henderson in the end on Sunday for mighty 4 points. Nevertheless, so I've got De Bruyne, Richarlison, great stuff there, Traore, Grealish, Aguero and Salah. So I didn't get Aguero in thinking I'll swap him to Salah. I got Aguero in thinking I might move him to someone like Jimenez or Vardy or whatever, whoever really. I've got Traore in place, so it's not an urgent move. But I got Salah in just because I thought, well, I'd probably want him. But as you said, just pointing out, Van Dijk could easily outscore him. But so I think if you're in a situation like me, you got just sit tight basically. I think I've got De Bruyne in there as well with Aguero, so I would find it hard to think that both of them won't start. And we're going to know the lineup on the Wednesday. We're going to know the West Ham one. That's the biggie. The Leicester, I'm not sure about. So, and I don't think I really earmarked Aguero for that captaincy anyway. But I think it's possible worth keeping because obviously if Aguero is going to get significant minutes, you would imagine there'd be a goal somewhere, even though it's Leicester. Ndidi might be needing surgery. He is instrumental really in the Leicester clean sheet potential. So while I've got Sionju there, I don't think I'm going to get too much out of him. You never know, but against Man City, I'm not sure. So I was just going. Last week I went through my captaincy. So this is something we do in Sky just to look ahead who potential captains. And I'll just reel it off again because it's changed slightly, but only slightly. And I think this shows that if you've got a plan, I think you can pretty much stick to it. The storm has affected planning a little bit, but I don't think as much as perhaps we're thinking. So Richarlison was my captain. There we go. Fine. And then the next one, Jimenez or Vardy were going to be, but I've got Traore, or I could move to Barnes. I don't know, but they're fine. Salah as captaincy, then Grealish. I was always happy with Grealish. I had no plans to move to Aubameyang. And then obviously Aguero for that wonderful West Ham game, hopefully. But then I can move to KDB if he's not starting. And then I'm looking at that Chelsea-Manchester United one. I'm actually thinking Richarlison out for Fernandes at Manchester United because he's a bit of a differential. You're a Manchester United fan. People in fantasy games, when a Manchester United player starts doing well, they rocket in ownership. But at the moment, he'll be a differential. So if I'm banking on him doing well, and then we got Sheffield United or Grealish or KDB. So I'm not. It's not definite that I would captain Manchester City after that. And then Jimenez, Salah, the usual names. It just goes on that. Salah, Leicester, Richarlison's an option again, but I won't have him. I don't think. Fernandes is another option again when Jimenez and Richarlison could be captaincies. Jimenez is the one I really want. So with this team here, I think I'm going to keep De Bruyne and Aguero for that Leicester game, see what happens, and then after that, I'm considering moving Aguero out for Mane, because Mane I don't think is going to be so well owned. I don't think people are going to think, well, they maybe prefer Salah. I don't know. Having Salah and Mane, I think, would be a nice differential in itself. And then De Bruyne, I'm not sure about. I'm keeping my options open. I think that's the message with me. I'm keeping my options open. And that's one of the reasons I've got Aguero and Salah from the off. But here's my second team. And it's a bit more unusual, I think. So I've gone for Alisson, Van Dijk, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold and Baldock at the back. Now I've got 5-man midfield. Mahrez, Richarlison, Barnes. So I've got Leicester covered with Barnes. Then Grealish, Mount, Mason. I'm going for Mason Mount there because I don't think he's going to be very well owned at all, and you never know. And then I've got Aguero up top. So the plan there was obviously Aguero to anyone, and I'm not sure who, but I'm going to keep him for 2 games. But this is my differential side. So my main side, I'm about 1,500, but my differential side is about 7,500. So I really only want to be quite different with this. So I'm not sure at the moment, but I don't know what your general thoughts are for a player like me with a team that they want to definitely be differential. Who would be your kind of differential midfield attacker forwards type picks going forward?
No, I really like the way you've got it set up there. You've done similar to what I've done with the 4 Liverpool. So every time they keep a clean sheet, you're hopefully up on people. So that's good. And then you've got a real nice mix of midfielders there. I don't think many people have Mount, and obviously Chelsea offer quite a few captain days.
Yeah.
And then obviously their fixtures do turn.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he's still extremely cheap and playing, a number 10 or slightly out wide role a lot of the time for Chelsea. So he could return to form like he did. I mean, he got 2 assists last week, I think, I believe. So he could do. And Barnes still a differential. I think Richarlison, keeping him through, we mentioned him briefly, keeping him through these tough fixtures, I think it's just a smart idea all round. He doesn't seem to matter to him. Ancelotti, since he's come into Everton, has made a real difference to them, I think. And this guy's just got so many strings to his bow. We've seen it, shots on target, tackles, man of the match. He's just a great Sky asset, to be honest with you. And then obviously Mahrez is a great differential. To be honest, I wouldn't be looking to change that. I think it's really well set up. Aguero can come in and out for whoever you fancy as a captain on that particular day. So Jimenez, Vardy, whoever. I really like it. I don't think there's any players you need to be looking at outside of what you've got at the moment, to be honest.
Well, really, I mean, for me, Mahrez I'm looking at because I don't like Man City's fixture. I think there's going to be a lot of rotation. There's a blank coming up. I think Mahrez and Aguero in combination can become 2 others.
Yes, they could. I mean, if you could make stretch it to Son, he might be one that I might look at, because
Yeah.
I don't think he will be highly owned.
No, I think you're
Spurs offer
right.
some different captain days, and then obviously he's playing up front and got penalties. So
Brilliant.
if you
Thanks.
could make it to him, I think he's a good one.
Thanks, and I think that's a good option for other people as well. That's what I mean. It's that theme of looking for a differential, really. So Son really fits that bill. He's not going to be highly owned. Going for Mane and then captain him, because I've already got virtually the entire. Well, I have got the Liverpool defence, and so Aguero to Mane could work. Mahrez to, I'm not sure. I'll see what I've got left as well.
I think if Aguero to Mane, Mahrez to Son, I think you could maybe just about do that. Just off the top of my head, very close.
I'll have a look. I hope I've left. I can't remember which team. I've left 500,000 in one of them, and I've left about 0.2 in another. So I've got a little bit of ballast there. Let's move on to some questions. We've already covered what we're doing with Liverpool and Man City. We've got this new strategy, really. Suddenly you've got this immediate. You've got 2 for 1 to do it. Man City post Leicester game, move on to Liverpool if you can. So I think that's a wise
You just have to treat the Leicester game as a complete bonus. It's like, at the end of the day, Man City home to West Ham, Liverpool away to Norwich. On paper, probably back the home team more. You'd probably just, like, if we were playing a daily game, forget all the fixtures, everything, independent days. If you're playing a daily game, most people would gravitate towards Aguero in that situation, assuming he's starting. So I feel like you just have to sit on that one for that reason more than anything else. Just trust. We've got Van Dijk.
Okay, well, I mean, this is a slightly different Liverpool question. This is from Lee Williams. He's got 4 Liverpool assets already and 18 transfers left. I've got 15 and consider myself fairly lucky. 18, you can really use them, I think. Is it worth bringing in City players? So he hasn't got City coverage. Is it worth bringing in City players for that West Ham game and that bonus of that Leicester game, and then moving back to Salah? So
interesting, I with that many transfers, I would be maybe inclined. I basically put around the 20-point figure on how much a transfer is worth. That's how much I would like to get from a transfer. And then if I think that there's also a chance they could get even more, then it definitely appeals to me. Now, when we're talking about, potentially 2 Man City games, one of them being at home to West Ham, throwing in a captain armband on the transfer, you could easily see above 20 points. Obviously, you could get none, but you could get a lot more. So for me, I think that is worth it if you've got a lot. You have to bear in mind that, as we've already discussed, they may not play against Leicester. You may only end up being 1 game, but ultimately, can Aguero score more than 20 points at home to West Ham if he starts? Quite easily. So if you have a lot of transfers, then I would be tempted with that, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I look at 18 transfers very enviously. And I think, what's the point of having so many transfers if you don't use them for exactly this kind of thing?
You can mismanage them the other way. Not using enough. I'm not going to say that now because we don't know what the situation will be come the end of the season. But that is borderline, I would say.
Okay.
As in, probably should have used a couple more, maybe a couple more. But it's good. Yeah, I'd love to have 18 by all means.
I think if I had 18, I would definitely consider it for things like this. As you said, it's getting a captain who can get you 20 points minimum.
Richarlison has shown it, hasn't he? You have to be in it to win it. A lot of people, and I did in one of my teams, decided I was going to ignore that game. It didn't look overly great on paper. Palace can be quite stubborn to break down. Everton sometimes let you down. 34 points just from essentially 1 goal. Well, 1 goal and assist.
And Richarlison is, I think, worth keeping. Benny Blanco asks, should we hold on to Richarlison given Everton's tough fixtures, or are there captaincy and other opportunities to be gained by selling him? So the way I'm looking at it with my teams, I've got Richarlison in both. In my more differential team, I'm minded to keep him because I think keeping him is a bit more of a differential. And then I think I'm more tempted to move on to other opportunities for a while because Everton's fixtures are bad. For the next few weeks, I'm not thinking of captaining him, possibly as a backup captain the odd day. So, as I said, I mentioned Fernandes. It could be Danny Ings. It could be basically anyone you can get in for that money. I do think there's opportunities there. So, one team I'm going to keep Richarlison, one team I'm not. So, it's slightly sitting on the fence there because I do think there's a potential. But for you, I mean, you're fairly committed to keeping Richarlison? I know he's not in your main team, but in your second team, you're committed to that.
Yeah, I got him in because I just like him, and I just think I'm going to stick with him in one team and not in the other. The fixtures are the put off. Ultimately, if he had better fixtures, I think we'd all have him. That's the only argument, really, is just how bad the fixtures are. But are they that bad on paper? I
No.
mean, a lot of the teams they play, yeah, they're historical top four teams, but we've seen, Arsenal, United's, all these people that are playing, just they can crumble any game. So yeah, I'm heavily inclined to keep if you have him, and it's more to do with the lack of other midfield options. What I've structured my team that way now. I wouldn't really know what to do with the cash apart from maybe go Fernandez, like you said, and I think that might be a little bit of a risk too far for me at the moment. So yeah, I'd just stick with him.
Dan Cox has been asked some questions. He's won it, of course. So we'll try our best to
Hats
help
off.
a guy who's won it.
Yeah.
But Dan, he asks, are we interested in bringing in Abraham on Monday? So if you don't have a captain that day, is it worth spending transfers on getting him in? And obviously probably removing him as well, because I'm not sure many people would want Abraham long term. But yeah, what do you think about that? I mean, I've got Mount in my differential team. Not sure about the other one. What do you think about that team, Abraham? I mean, he's in one of your teams, isn't
Yeah, so no, basically my answer is this. I think if you had him already from the overhaul and you plan just to have him for that captain day, and I basically did it because I didn't want to waste transfers. The structure, Abraham's so cheap. He's like 8.3 million, I
he?
think, incredibly cheap. So I thought for that team, I'll have a cheap striker slot. I looked at all of them and I thought, well, Tammy Abraham covers a captain. They've got some bad games and then suddenly they've got a really good run. So in the essence of saving transfers, I just went with Tammy early just to
Yeah.
save that headache later on. So that's what I've decided for that team. I think if you've already got him, great, you can captain him in that game.
Yeah.
But would I bring him in and then potentially take him out and then mess with transfers and structure? It's a definite no for me.
Yeah.
Like away to they are away, aren't they? I think they're
Yeah.
away to Man United. He could do okay in that game, but Tammy Abraham has shown quite a few times, I think, that he's not that consistent when it comes to point scoring. He's sometimes a bit erratic. So, given they play at home to Spurs, I think, in the early kickoff the next day, it's not a great game. You'd expect Jose Mourinho going to Chelsea.
It's a tricky price point, isn't it?
That's
he offers value as a forward, but does he really? And he's competing against, say, maybe Pereira in defence, even though I'm not convinced about Leicester's clean sheets. But these are the sorts of other players who potentially could get more. I'm looking, as I said, I've mentioned Fernandez because Richarlison to Fernandez keeps my structure. I think there's a 0.1, 0.2 difference, 10 point something. So that keeps that structure going, and it sort of holds that place because I've got a feeling I'm going to want Richarlison back at some point. And I'm not sure about Fernandez. Just that's a sort of risk I think you have to take at this stage. But for me, yeah, I totally agree with you. If you've got Abraham, great. If you haven't, I wouldn't look at that. Dan Cox has been asking another question as well. So let's see if we can help him. Are players like Grealish and Martinelli decent enough Sunday captaincy options? Or is it worth bringing in Aubameyang again? So we've seen over the last couple of years, Aubameyang can be a real game changer. I got him in just before the overhaul. I had 16 transfers, so I decided to get him in and captain him against Burnley. He blanked. So for me personally, I'm really happy with Grealish against Spurs. That'll do me. What about you for that day?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, we've kind of made our beds now. If you've got Martinelli, then you obviously had some faith in him. So obviously, I would just stick and back that. I do think he will be rotated long term, but for these two home games, he has been playing on that left, and he probably will start. But I'm not Arteta, so I don't know for sure. But I certainly wouldn't be bringing in Aubameyang just for. I mean, they are two decent games, and we pretty much know Aubameyang will play. So, like you said, he could be that little bit of a differential. But if you haven't sort of planned for that already, if that makes sense, then to suddenly decide to do that now just seems a bit strange to me, especially when there's so many good strikers that we need at the moment. We've already been through Salah, you've got Aguero, you've got Jimenez, you've got Vardy. So it's one for the guys who've got loads of transfers. By all means, throw Aubameyang for two home games. You could do well, but otherwise, I would back Grealish and Martinelli if you've got them.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I just want to point out that the Chelsea game on the Mondays, in fact, Chelsea are at home to Manchester United. So that may sway some people. there. I personally still quite fancy Manchester United there, but we'll see. So usually what we look at is the bonus kings. Those are sort of a snapshot of those who are getting the tiers in the game as well. So we're going to do the same again, because this shows why I'm quite interested in Fernandes. So you can see here that, as I said, this is a snapshot. So it's last 4 game weeks. Obviously, what we're doing, this is largely based on FPL game weeks, the structure there, and not all have played the same amount of games, but it just gives an interesting look to see who's getting bonus. So Lejeune there for Newcastle. Interesting. If you think the Newcastle are going to keep clean sheets, then he could be one to go for there. Fernandes is up there as well. He's getting those bonuses, looking for passes and shots as well. So he likes a shot. There's some other. Fred's still knocking around. I think we covered Fred last time. We're just not interested. There's Gundogan. So if we think there's going to be some rotation at Man City, and you still want a bit of them, but you don't want to go full on for Aguero and De Bruyne, Gundogan could be an alternative option, certainly differential. And out of that list there, we've got Laporte. David Proper at Brighton is, if you want a differential that's probably fail.
Yeah, I think it's because you've sorted it by mins per bonus this time. So obviously it's taken people who've played tiny little snapshots. So Zahoon, for example, he's got his bonus from his 2 goals, 2 shots on target. So that's why he appears there. It's not. I think it's just that the usual names that we know are always in and around the bonus at the moment.
Yeah, I thought I did it deliberately this time, sort of a bit differently, just to show up some, those that are getting the bonus.
To show Bruno Fernandes off. That's why.
That's why I did it really. But if you see there, because he's only played. So if I did it just for the last game week, for example, the last couple of fixtures, he still would have showed up in that. But yeah, I just wanted to show that, just to show, because there's some different names in there.
He is very interesting, Fernandes, because he's essentially Pogba Mark II for Sky, isn't he? He potentially gets tackles, he gets passes, maybe shots on target. He had quite a few. He could really work, because Pogba in the past for periods has been incredible. He's been that Ramsey or Yaya Toure where they pick up all sorts, or even Fabregas. There's so many names that have through the years have been that attacking central midfielder who's just picked up points from anywhere. So he is in that group of players, Fernandes, potential, but obviously it's very, very early days. If he then starts sitting deep, which did happen during the Man United game at one point, then maybe his attacking threat may dip a bit, but we'll see. Yeah,
we'll see. I'm just thinking with that Chelsea game, Chelsea's defence is awful at the moment. So we'll see. We'll see, definitely. Still not decided totally, but I think it could be an interesting differential. Another reason I framed it like that, because it shows that Laporte is there. We mentioned him on other Skycasts before, but I think it's just important to reiterate, if we think Laporte's going to play, he's a bit like Van Dijk. He gets points for showing up. He gets points just for doing what he does. And if he could get an attacking return, of which he did last season, then you're absolutely laughing. So,
and he's around the same price as Robertson. So as Laporte finds his way back into fitness and starts playing, if Robertson isn't getting the bonus, or Liverpool have won the league and start messing around and changing their defence, then I would imagine, seeing as though Laporte has missed the majority of the season, even if Man City have got targets elsewhere, once he's fully fit, I imagine he'll be playing nearly every game, like he did the season. In all other seasons he's been involved, he's played nearly every game. So, he could be one to look out for if Liverpool start messing around with their defence. He'd just be a straight swap to him, but bit early yet, as I think he's still not quite fit, is he? Fully, anyway.
No. And just before we go, just mention a couple of people in the live chat. So Freddie Hayward says, "Woo! I made a live chat finally." So, woo! Great to see you there,
well
Freddie.
Done, Freddie.
And Hornet FPL, I think, has now left the live chat because he is got to go back to work. But he's going to listen to the recorded version. So he hopes that Storm Dennis, which is coming this weekend, another storm, pushes Liverpool game back. You never know. That is an option as well. So hold your transfers. You advise that in Sky anyway, because we get to see the deadline. So if it's an early fixture, but even if it's a later fixture, just wait until the weather. Don't make any moves until you know that the games are definitely on. But just wanted to mention that as well. But for now, Luke, good luck with the next game week in Sky, and good luck with your revised plans.
Thank you very much, you too, Joe, and let's hope the storm is kind to us and we don't have to restructure our plans again. I want all the games to continue as they are now. I can't be doing with another headache and having to switch it around again.
No, hopefully the next game will be much easier. But for now, goodbye all.
Bye-bye.